Heyo, my Planet Coaster friends, Johnny5 Alive here, and welcome back to another episode of Project PlanCo. Got a really awesome one for you here today in terms of blueprints, placing down the builds, checking out the creations that are going into the park. This might just be one of my all-time personal favorites so far. We are visiting Little Italy. We have 4+1 blueprints because one already existed there from Furana in the past, but we are sneaking in the 4 surrounding buildings for that, completing half of Little Italy. And then the other 4 that are going to come in a part 2 episode on the complete other side of the Little Italy area will actually fully complete the area. Just so happened that the creations submitted just all happened to be on this half of the park. I think we're waiting on 2 more Little Italy buildings and we can get the full other half of it into the park and completely say that Little Italy is completed other than the contest. The way that these buildings fit together, the way that they create immersive atmosphere is one of the coolest that I've seen throughout this series. And I'm really excited to share with you all these builds, so let's get right on into it. Boom. There it is, our building number 1, Project PlanCo Italy building number 1, created by BKU 87. It has 690 pieces, they say on the workshop. Some little setup guides there. Was actually quite easy to place, other than like I had to be pixel perfect with it, but no issues, nothing like that. It's snugly placed in, but this is one of the ones that had a very interesting plot. As you guys can see from the shape of this building here, the volumetric cube actually covered between these 2 buildings. They put a hole here. They decided to incorporate this little jut or indentation, and they decided to build a very interesting way in their volumetric cube that I'm very pleased about. They had an instruction here. This is what building number 1 that I just want to show you guys. They had this sign, if too high, just erase the tower. So I guess they optionally allowed me to erase the tower, I guess. You shouldn't. Oh my god, by erasing the tower we found a Easter egg. Well, what I can do is undo that while selecting this and then delete that. So extra 2-part count that did not necessarily need to be there, but I literally had no idea that was there. I just wanted to show you guys that this builder was concerned that they built too high. And yes, while it went over their volumetric cube, the volumetric cube is meant to be a rough estimate of what your building should look like. You can go over and under slightly, but you should try to fill it to like 90%. I guess they were concerned that it was too high. I don't think that's a problem at all. In fact, I think that is a lovely design choice to go over with that little bell tower there. What I really, really love what BKU did with this build is exactly what I was talking about with the indentation. They have this little staircase going up and into this nice little seating area, which in theory, their building should have come straight across here. And instead they opened it up and gave some breathing room for this back alley. It would have felt really crampy coming through here. And I cannot iterate how good of a decision, how good of a builder this creator is by making that design choice, by making this indentation with the seating area. It is amazing that they strayed away from their volumetric cube ever so slightly to create an opening atmosphere in this area of the park. Some of the decisions you guys are making are just things that, like, if I were to build all these buildings one by one myself, I probably wouldn't have thought of that. I wouldn't consider that. And, you know, you guys are taking it upon yourselves to use your best judgment to build things the way that you think that they should be. And the decision making here is impeccable. So as you can see, Little Italy has this problem. Not a problem, but a something that you have to build around and consider, and Batch did this on purpose. He wanted elevation in the park, so we have a little ramp path here, and then a flat area, then a ramp area, and it creates some height and differentiation between the different elevations. So some people have to build up high and then build a foundation, and it creates a lot of challenges, and I love that. I love the design of this, but with all that said, this is flat terrain as, yeah, there's like a hill here. The builder just so happened to say, oh, if I get a staircase here, I'm not going to have a problem with the hill, and I could create this nice little nook. It's just such an incredible design. The building itself looks remarkable. It's got the Italian colors there with the little flags, and it has all the build pieces. It's just really, really fantastic. I don't think there's an actual shop in here. It's all a pretend shop, but as you can tell, this is some sort of like eatery. This is where you come to get your pasta. Come out back here, sit, chill. You get some shade, get away from the sun there. Little grapevines and stuff growing up the building, roses. It's so beautifully decorated. I don't know what the piece count limit was for this, but they only used 690. I'm sure because how big the building is, the park count limit was much, much higher than that. That is remarkable. I love this building. BKO, you knocked it out of the park, quite literally. So yeah, this is a way to kick off the episode for sure. I love it. Absolutely love it. Pop! Italian building number 2, created by Glacier. Over here in the corner, I believe this is the right one. Yes, this was one of the ones I provided feedback to originally in my feedback video. Said that it wasn't really quite filling the volumetric cube perfectly, so maybe go back here, add some garden work. And while they added the garden work, they did the ivy up the walls and add a little bit more floral there, as well as here, because this building cube shape was originally, as you can see from the path, straight line and then a turn. But they decided to make one giant long kind of rectangular building, but then jut another one in this way. Because they didn't fill their cube in an interesting way where there's this kind of jutting angle where you have to kind of mash these two buildings together, there was a gap here, so they decide, in the feedback video, I said that, try to dress this up a bit, and what they created was a nice little garden with ivy growing up between the two buildings here, and I think that just turned out wonderfully. So you took the feedback, you did something with it. I like what you did with the foundation on the side running through the terrain there, a little bit of decorations here, because when we pass through here, we're going to see into this little alleyway just a little bit. So there's a little bit of noise there, a little bit of gardening work done here, and I think now it fits just perfectly. A little bit of ivy on top, and I think I asked them to create some light sources because there were lights on the building, but there were no light sources, and now we have some light sources like lamps and little pieces like that, and a couple down here on the side. Now I don't know if this was already there or if they put two here. The spacing might be a little bit strange, but I could always move that over here or do whatever. That's something to look at in the final polish of the park when we pass through everything. But yeah, again, another beautiful Italian style build, matches really well with what's already here. It's a generic, I guess, apartment style building. Really great details on here. Everybody seems to be nailing this style quite nicely, and it fits really snugly. It's going to lead you into our spooky area of the park. This is going to be King Ghoster's spooky land. Yeah, it's looking really tight, matching between all the buildings here, creating for a super immersive walkthrough. So an amazing build from Glacier here, doing a really interesting shape on their building too. Really challenging build. I think you pulled it off just perfectly. Really good job. Boom. Italian building number 3, built for the Channel 5 gaming community project PlanCo, created by Ready to Fall. It says their piece count limit was 1,000 plus 5 for placement. So I'm assuming this was a 1K limit building and they used the exact amount of 1,000 pieces. It says here a non-functional shop front in the color scheme of Gelateria di Maria. I can never say that right. And an apartment building for the small back alleyway. And then there's some placement info. So they are going with the Gelateria color scheme, which I'm not mad at because we're going to have one right here. So it's going to actually match quite nicely. But the fact that they don't have the actual shop inside is completely fine because we're going to have one right here for the contest. I don't really see the color schemes that much. I don't know, because that uses like this mint color, right? Unless there's some more billboardage stuff that I'm not aware of. Am I looking at the right build? I must be. Yeah, I don't really see the Gelateria color scheme that much. I guess maybe this is kind of like a greenish. I'm not entirely sure. Either way, I think the building looks amazing. Yeah, I think it looks really astonishing. What I love the most about it is how nicely it fit this really awkward shape. You had this kind of like S-bend thing going on here, and that's just proposes so many challenges because you can't really necessarily turn pieces in Planet Coaster. Every time you want to go off the grid, you have to make an entirely new building. So each one of these is a different building, and that proposes tons of challenges. So having this big long curve here, it's essentially like 4 different buildings combined together. And you decided to decorate the backside, which I don't know how much detail you needed there. We could have just brought the terrain a little bit, but because the terrain isn't currently brought up that high, I think we'll keep the terrain nice and low going forward, because we want to definitely see the backside of your build here. We might even delete some of these trees so you can see it a little bit better from the perspective of the spooky area. Yeah, it's so well decorated, we might as well just leave it as is. Really cool custom AC units on this. I love that little touch there. And even these little tiny bricks sticking through. Adds a little bit of texture and noise. Super cute. Got the vines growing up the side. Seems like a very popular choice amongst this build style. Tons more little AC units. People draping clothes out their windows on clotheslines. Really cool. The selling point is the little shopping area. And this shopping area has some really cool World's Fair posters on the walls. I think that's a really nice touch. Really taking from that World's Fair DLC, which this area of the park is technically a World's Fair DLC area. Hey, it's a pink penguin. Well, we did find one hidden in that previous build in this, but I don't think we ended up seeing one in the France area in the last episode. So they're not making an appearance in every single build and every single video, but they're certainly every other. I'm really curious to know by the end of this series what the penguin count is going to be. Cool little seating area up here. Love the undulation here with the little building sticking out the top. Yeah, this fit the volumetric cube just perfectly, and placing it was just perfect. Just pixel perfect precision from this creator, ready to fall. Yeah, it's just amazing. Again, like, I am gushing over all of the builds in this episode and the way that they all work together. Fua's was one of the first ever built, as she was one of the early access builders, and I think this was featured in the very, very first video for this series. And now seeing all her neighbors get placed in here is really cool. It's really cool. And as you can see, we have a lot of color variation too. It's a very vibrant area of the park with a very unique build style, and it's starting to feel very Italian. So really good stuff. We have one more build. Let's go check the last one out. Okay, here we are. This is Italian Building 5 for Project PlanCo, made by Petita Gorda 5555. I guess their name on Discord is Potatas55. Cool. Again, bringing in more color to this area. We have like a vibrant red side to the building and a vibrant yellow. I like that. It creates like a different feel as you're coming through here. The bright yellows, bringing in some of that sunlight and color. And then on this side, bright red. Very similar to what Furana did with her Pip Shop water, using those Pip Shop blues on this side, and then the juice colors for green and purple on this side. And between the two of them, we get a lot of that paint and that vibrance and that color. I think these two really paired nicely together. And again, this is one of these like happy accidents. I don't know. These builders are all very, very smart. This community is very smart. I'm going to assume a lot of it is happy accidents, but there are people sharing screenshots on Discord, showing what their builds are, providing each other with feedback, giving each other suggestions and stuff. So some people that are building are aware of what their neighbors have done and what they are doing. So there's a chance that Potatoes has saw what Furana did and maybe said, oh, I'm going to incorporate some of these pieces, you know, some of the columns, the roof pieces, the walls, and some of these little decors, and then try to do something similar to that, but in a different color. So maybe Fua had something to do with the inspiration of this build and helped shape it to be something that matches, you know, really matches and flows next to it. Or it was just a complete happy accident. Either way, at the end of the day, it all comes down to two cohesive builds, two cohesive neighbors, and a lot of vibrant colors. And the way they all pair together, even coming through here, it's just this beautiful back alleyway. And I love the way this looks. As we traverse from building to building, from area to area, you feel super immersed. You feel like you're in a little Italy, and that's exactly what we were hoping for. Got to give another props and shout out to Batch for designing the area the way that he did. And originally I was trying to poke holes in the idea, saying like, won't it feel too crampy and are we gonna run into issues? You know, he argued that it's gonna all be fine, and he was right. And I learned really early on, never doubt Batch and trust completely in everything that he does. He's a really good level designer. I also haven't really mentioned this throughout the series, but I'm going to mention it now. I want to give a big shout out to Demona Lisa Kills, as a lot of these things, when I was placing them early on, I was running into issues. I had to send them back to the builders, and it was slowing down the process of making this content for you guys. Demona Lisa volunteered to place down the buildings to see if there were any potential issues, to check the nighttime lighting, which we could do now as well. So she's been looking to see, is it too bright? Does it need more light sources? Does it fit properly? Is there a sink me, hide me sign? Like, is Johnny going to have any troubles placing these buildings down? And she's been checking all that stuff and kicking back a lot of these builds to the builders and asking them for changes. And then they change it and they send it back, and then she approves it again. So checking each one of these buildings 1 to 2 times, if not more, is definitely a lot of work. So everybody give it up for our wonderful moderator, helper, Demona Lisa. Does this building have lighting? Did I miss something? Okay, yeah, no, it does. This is one of the weird ones that the lights were attached to the sink behind me sign, and I deleted that and the lights disappeared, and I was like, uh-oh. But you put like a nice glow on the inside, and I guess it brings in a subtle amount of glow on the outside, but no actual light sources. I think it's fine though, because there's so much lighting and stuff going around your buildings, but I definitely feel like it could have used a couple lamps here and there. Something we can just add in later, I suppose. We can relook at this and think, should we put a couple street lights outside and then just remove the ones on the inside? Just something for the polish phase when all of the buildings are in the Italian area. We can sort of see, like, is everything cohesive? Is there anything we should change or add in terms of just tiny little subtle things? But yeah, going to my previous point, thank you to Mona Lisa. I wish I gave you a shout out earlier on. You're definitely going to give you big credits in the credits for the final project for QA, but I just wanted to mention that here because I've been forgetting to do that in previous episodes. So, you know, she's doing an amazing job making it easy for me to just say, okay, these ones are approved, they're ready to go. Let's make a full episode on Italy without any possible issues. So that's made this process a lot easier for me to break things into sections. So when everything is approved for this section here, I can start with confidence. So we'll do a part 2, Italy part 2, getting all these 4 in, and we'll showcase the entire area. And that should hopefully come not too long from now, but we're just waiting on 2 builds. 2 are finished, 2 are waiting for, and Little Italy is completed. And I gotta say, again, as mentioned earlier, the way you guys designed your builds, the amount of decorations, the vibrance, the colors, the intricacies and details throughout this, it's looking to be one of the coolest areas in the park. Hands down. Absolutely amazing. And I have a feeling French area is going to be really cool too, as we featured this half of the France area in the previous episode. So I'm really loving how this side of the park is turning out. Can't wait to see how some of these other areas shape up. But so far, I think this might be my personal favorite. What is your personal favorite throughout this park so far? What have you been enjoying about this series? Let me know your thoughts down below. And that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this episode of Project PlanCo, Little Italy. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video of Project PlanCo. Bye now.